they'll lynch you. But he did, and he laughs at
Yes, everybody, Russell West Ham Network. Hope you are all safe and well. I've caught up with my sleep before you ask. Kinda. Hope you're safe. If you're new around here, welcome. Thanks for joining us. If you want a little taste of what we're like, we did a 24-hour live stream on Friday for the Iron Sporting Food Banks running into Saturday. Lots of merriments to be had, and we raised a few quid as well, which was great. Wasn't the intention of that. It was obviously to promote the Iron Sporting Food Banks hashtag Bring a Quid campaign. And the good news is that for anyone who was at the game, they would have seen that obviously Iron Sporting Food Banks, John Matomsky was interviewed on the pitch with the Pearly Kings rather, and he was presented with an award distributed by the club and the Premier League, one of our own award, which is in recognition to a fan who goes above and beyond and shows real community spirit and that type of stuff. And John was awarded that. Much to his surprise, I knew about it and I couldn't tell him about it. It was eating me up inside. So I'm glad it's finally out and he's got his award. And obviously he's got a squad number 95, and that was presented by Mr. Ginger Pele on the pitch. And John was very emotional about that, but it's in recognition for the great work he does. And more importantly, also there's that as well. But we won a bloody game of football. We won, Milesy. We won indeed. Dizzy heights of 14th, and if you saw the pictures of Lucas Paqueta with his oxygen tank afterwards, he needed that, the altitude, because we were riding high in 14th. But obviously, it wasn't pretty. It was very sloppy. I thought the team looked very nervous at times, but they got 3 points, and the football wasn't great. But for, in terms of what's going to happen for the next 12 games at least, that's pretty much what's going to happen, peeps. It's not going to be pretty football, but it's going to be pragmatic and it's going to be getting points on the board. And Sunday means nothing unless we get something on Wednesday. And obviously, we've got Newcastle at the London Stadium. And also we've got Thursday. Don't forget, if you're going to the Newcastle game, if you want to go on Thursday for the under-18s semi-cup, youth semi-cup final, that's going to be, there's no tickets on the door on Thursday, I believe. So make sure you pick up a ticket on Wednesday night. It's going to be a good game. It's going to be good fun. It's a great opportunity to see the future of West Ham in terms of the under-18s, who, just like the men's side, get done over by Brighton. They were 3-2 up in injury time and lost 4-3. Typical West Ham in it. So despite they might be the future, they've still got that trail of West Ham in there, which is good to see. But hopefully they can turn over Southampton on Thursday and get through to semi-finals, where they're going to be playing either Arsenal or Man City. Arsenal, obviously, Kenny Brown's kid plays for that side as well, so that's going to be quite interesting. Day in the Brown household, if it's West Ham Arsenal final, also be played at their ground, so either the Etihad or the Emirates. So let's go through a few comments and we'll chat about the game yesterday, and we'll do the review show in terms of not the highlights, but like the ratings. My brain is still a bit fuzzled, I'll be honest, from the weekend. Also, tonight we've got Alf's got a grumble, or maybe it's not a grumble today. Maybe it's not a grumble. That'll be out later on tonight. We've also got Hammer's headlines in association with the KUMB.com boys. Obviously, Graham and Rio and Milesy were on our Soccer Saturday, which was really fun. Rio was chef's kiss, amazing. So funny. And we talk about the Declan Rice succession plan. West Ham's own episode of Succession is underway apparently already. So we'll talk about that. And then tomorrow we've got we'll have the press conference for the Newcastle game. We'll also have we're going to start putting some of the stuff that across the 24 hours live stream, things like a Diamante interview and things like that. I think we'll be putting that up tomorrow as well. So you can watch that rather than having to sift through and scrub through, 8 hours of. It would have been 24 hours if it wasn't for Nick Killington switching the stream off after his show at 1 o'clock in the morning. But it was, in a weird way, it helped us out a little bit. And for anyone who's in YouTube, they understand why it helped us out a little bit. But I won't tell him that. And also we'll have tomorrow night. We'll have Kendall Rowan, a Newcastle fan. We've had her on before. She's brilliant, really engaging, really knowledgeable about Newcastle, and we'll have her as the opposition fan. Little preview before Wednesday's game. Ludders, good afternoon to you. Usual suspects in the house. West Ham Come Your Eyes is here. Guten Tag says Peter. At the end of the day, we won. We did. Luke, it was dreadful. And he says, Rustin, how we win, we need to go 2 gears at least on Wednesday. Do you know what? The the half glass full of me, it was almost like at times it was, I know it wasn't the case, but it was almost like doing the bare minimum to get the job done. In that we've got a game on Wednesday and then we've got a game on Saturday. So maybe it is a case of doing the bare minimum just to get the result. But I agree. Particularly Newcastle yesterday were quite impressive against Man United. So we need to be up a couple of levels. And I think we will be. Because also we'll have the momentum from this week coming through. It's a night game. We'll have the fireworks. We'll have the crowd. Flo's going to be there. Mrs. Budden's going to be there. All the Budden royalty family are going to be there. So I'm sure they're aware of that fact. So there we go. 3 wins on the bounce, and Leicester look really good. It did mass improvement. It did indeed. Newcastle looked good against Newcastle. I'm a bit worried. Looks like no points the next 2 games. Well, let's wait and see. Let's wait and see. I don't think. Do you know? At the beginning of the day, before yesterday, I was talking to Martin about it, and we thought that if anything, the Fulham game would probably be the most likely to get a result out of the next 3 games, including yesterday, because for me, the likes of Mitrovic is a huge player for them, and he's obviously not there. And I think they struggled a little bit at the weekend. And I think we'll do. I think we'll get a draw tomorrow on Wednesday. If I think we'll win away to Fulham. That's just me. How is it possible that almost all of the players played very well and the actual game was as awful? I don't know, but they played very well. I thought we played quite sloppy. Some players played a bit better than others, but collectively, I thought it was a sloppy game. Both sides looked really nervous and shit themselves a lot, I think, but we'll talk about the in particular. Kehrer was lovely, who hasn't got carried away with what was going on in Newcastle. She's she's really, really engaging, really good fun, and she's a real giggle. And so I'm looking forward to chatting to her tomorrow because she's a real good laugh. What is going on, Skamaka? I think he got blown out because I saw him leave, and I told Anton, I've just seen Skamaka leave, and he's civvies. But apparently, he'd basically was getting treatment there. And he wasn't due to play anyway. So he got treatment in his knee at the stadium, then went home to change to come back. Apparently, to be in the stands, but I don't know. We said that one before. Best not rely on Skamaka going good this season, indeed. Feeling optimistic a little bit more. It was a weird match to watch. You're totally right. You should get used to it. We've got another 11 of these. Kaleta should have seen red. Aren't you glad I didn't spend any money? I thought it was awful. Douche Kaleta after all that bloody, touting of him. Anyway, let's do the ratings as we always do the day after the night before. So let's start with Fabianski. Let's bring up my notes. I did do a little video after the game, but I couldn't get it loaded. Just basically giving you my initial thoughts, but I didn't bother putting up. Right. And don't forget to get your scores in below. So Fabianski, let me have a quick look. Where's my notes? Obviously back in the squad after his eye injury, coming back from surgery. A little bit, I think eyebrows were a little bit raised by that, to be honest, but he's relatively eased into the game. He gets, despite the fact he had an injury. For me, I thought he didn't show nerves, because sometimes that can happen. If you get an injury, you favour it a little bit, but he was coming forward for stuff. He didn't seem bothered by it. A few times, a few good shots, a few good saves. Particularly after Aguerd's opener, they got into it a bit more. Was it Roman Pranode or something like that? A couple of good shots. He was the left back. He was quite good. Couple of times forced into action. A couple of good saves, particularly at the end. To be honest, we almost conceded at the end if Big Paul header had gone in, but I think actually he'd have probably saved that because his hand was pretty much. It would have taken an effort to get past his hand, to be honest, there. But it was okay. Distribution from me was a little bit slow as always. It was almost like not necessarily a game. I don't know. No one would say it's a game plan at all because you could see Nolan like telling him to get out quicker, but he wasn't. But he gets a clean sheet. So first game back, clean sheet on top of everything else. I don't think that's a bad score for him. 8 for me. Must be like one thing confirmed. Another. Ings up his own is a total disaster, and Soucek has no place on the field under Moyes. I think he does, Alan, if Ings plays. In my honest, if it, on his own. Now, there's an interesting comment that Moyes made in the post-match press conference. I think Sean put it on his Twitter, but I'll talk about that in a bit when we get to Ings. Fab's done what he's asked. What a douchebag. Very good. Yep. Indeed, 8. Sushi did something like 8 passes away. He did 7. Fabianski, great. 8. Hi, Rich. Here he is, the Paul Sammy's brigade. 7. A good 9. 8. 7. Russie B gave him. What did I give him? I forgot what I gave him. I think I gave him a 7 as well. 7. Right, let's talk about Mr. Emerson. Tell you what, and before I get into him, out of all of our maybe obviously we signed 8 players. The one I was least excited about was this man, but this man, to be honest, has changed my opinion on him really massively. Fair play to him. I already had sort of assumptions of what Aguerd was going to bring in. I had assumptions of what Paqueta was going to bring in and various others. But Emerson, I was like, but actually, fair play to him. Do you know, he continues to show why he's taken over from Aaron Cresswell. Despite this illness, he played the whole game. He played until Cresswell took him off at the end, but literally a couple of minutes at the end. He was one of the most progressive players we had, despite being left back. Often, the first thing he would do is run forward, which was great. Some nice interplay with Benrahma. Couldn't, obviously, he was getting balls in the box, but there's no one there to put him in, unfortunately, as per usual. Good passing movement, good intent, and considering the pace of someone like Walter Peters on the right-hand side as the right fullback, he didn't get rinsed either. I thought, do you know what? Fair play to him. Fair play. He was, and he said, here's some comments. Have a look what we got here. 8, 7. He's been yep. That was Fabianski. 8. Goes under the radar. 8. Ran himself. 8, 7. 8, 7. Lots of sticks saying he can't defend. Great player. Came to the party a comfy 7, 7, 8. What Masuaku was supposed to be. Indeed. Yeah, solid 7. Is Emerson the quickest that he's settled in? I think so, because, well, again, we bought a Premier League ready player. Go through the rest of the side. The rest of the signings, none of them are Premier League signings, are they? Am I right? No, Ings. Okay, well, Ings. I'm talking about the summer. Out of all the summer ones, I think he's the one who's settled in the quickest. And because maybe because he bought him from the Premier League, maybe that's something we should bear in mind in the summer. I gave Emerson a 7, solid. Could have been an 8, should have been an 8, probably. Actually. Yeah, I might give him an 8. Right, let's talk about Aguerd. Hammer's headlines tonight. We talk about Naif in a bit more detail. One of the top 10 fastest defenders in the Premier League. We'll talk about that later on tonight. And despite having the niggly hip, he had a niggly hip. That's what Moisey said. He went straight back into the starting lineup, as we sort of alluded to, considering he was already in the training session when the video after. And that's happened 2 or 3 times that Moisey said, I don't know if he's going to play, and then he'll be training, and then the club will picture. The media team and Moisey don't sort of, just make sure they're on the same level. It seems a bit silly. But obviously starting back in the starting lineup alongside Zouma, obviously that's the starting pair. Defended well in the first half. I think shepherded Southampton's forwards quite well. Obviously without Che Adams as well, which was a big mass for there. Cuts out a lot of possession, doesn't he? Reads a lot of ball. Ball comes in. He does cut out a lot of passes in midair or while they're being drawn. He sees the ball and cuts it out rather than lets it get to the man and try and tackle him then. Obviously starting passes on the front foot as well. Obviously scored the goal. A free kick, an assist from Kehrer, good header. His first goal, long VAR check. I didn't understand what the VAR was, to be honest, because I couldn't. The comms from the VAR from Scott Lee Parker gone back down in the box, so we couldn't hear what they were talking about. If they were talking about anything, they might not have been actually. It might not have gone down. They might have just been just trying to look, but it's very strange because I get them zooming in, zooming out the same image, and I think the idea was to try and find the furthest part of the body. It was like not the shoulder, they were looking at the knee. It was very, very weird. Solid in the second half, lots of forward going forward. I mean, if we keep him and Zouma fit for the rest of the season, I haven't got any problem about us staying up. That's me. So he's bound to be shit next week. What we got here? Oh, wow, loads of scores. 8. She's a Captinio. 8. Class. Oozes class. 8. So pleased with his first goal. And it's nice because of the VAR, he got to celebrate twice, which is nice. Needs to stay fit. Well, I think he will stay. I mean, the injury was he's been injured before in terms of those big injuries. But, touch wood, since then, he's played the last 10 Premier League games, full 90 minutes, I think. 8, 9. And that's a great point, Alison, as well. Obviously, we had 3 players fasting as well for Ramadan, himself, Zouma, and Benrahma. And, wouldn't say energy levels dipped or anything like that, despite he couldn't drink or eat. It's crazy. 9. 8, goal bumped him up 1 point. 8, 9, great captain. Yeah, there will be people sniffing around, and that's it for sure. I gave him 8, and my man of the match. Let's talk about Zouma. Obviously, he was one of the players missing the last time we played Southampton in October. I mean, if you remember, we had to put quite like a weird makeshift lineup. We had loads of injuries and stuff like that. But obviously back in the fold with his number one partner. Solid, more solid in the back line when he features. But there's an extra bit of oomph there in the centre back positions when he's playing, I think. Most of Southampton's efforts, bar maybe big Paul at the end, came from outside the box, really, or from range. So, Zouma and Aguerd kept them at arm's length. So I thought, again, reasonably productive from him, to be honest. 7 still always looks, yep, indeed. 7 for the Catman. When they supposed to have a break in play for you, or is that coming in? No, that's nighttime. Obviously, they break their fast in the evening. So if they're playing a game at, say, 4 o'clock, and I think sundown is like 6 o'clock or something like that, and if official sundown is during the game, then the idea is there's a break in play. And not necessarily because actually, for evening games, sometimes sundown's already happened and they've ate before they've started anyway. But it's for those sort of Sunday last game, like 4 o'clock games, I think, usually on the Sunday. Because I think sundown's about 6:30, I want to say. If it's not, then obviously if it's later on, which it will be if it was in the month, then maybe. But yeah. So what we got is 7. Oh, he always gets a knock. He was walking down the tunnel afterwards. 7. He always looks like he's injured, though, Addison. 7. Yep, hours of fasting on the sunlight, indeed. I know that very well. Me and my friends are Muslim, and also when I was in Dubai last year before last, we went during Ramadan, and it was. I mean, the place was like a ghost town. Like all the malls were like a ghost town during the day, and as soon as sundown came, and they were just heaving. But yeah, fair play to them. Absolutely fair play to them. So it looks like 7s. I actually gave him also a 7. On the same ballpark there. That's nice to see. Let's move on and talk about Mr. Thilo Kehrer. This will be an interesting one because there's very differing opinions about him in his performance yesterday by looking at Twitter and talking to various people. Obviously, with Vladimir back in the squad, I think people assumed that he was going to be getting the nod. But Thilo was given the nod for the right back. I think the reason being for me was for just the pace that Southampton have on the wings, and Soufal's not the quickest. He doesn't tend to get rinsed by pace, does Soufal. But for me, I think that was part of the reason why why Tilo was favoured there. He was one of the players that actually during the first half, I don't know if anyone was listening to it on the TV, but in the stadium, there's a bit of booing, about halfway through the first half because we weren't going forward, we were like going back all the time, and Kehrer was one of those guys who tended to give the ball back to Zouma rather than look forward to Bowen. Obviously, he got the assist. It was his free kick, and then he seemed to. There was one point where he was up front. Do you remember the ball came to him, and it was almost like a toddler at Christmas, didn't know what to do with himself, and fluffed his lines a little bit. But I wasn't really surprised because he's not in that position. He's rare positioning in terms of up front, and he couldn't control the pass. But if he did, he probably would have scored. To be fair, because he was 1-on-1 with the keeper. Great run, but an okay game for him. I thought he played all right. I thought he played okay. Let's have a look what we got for the scores. Kehrer has his confidence back. 7, 6, 7. Is there a way back for the lad? Well, looks like it. I mean, the fact is Soufal is fit, but Soufal's played the last couple of games for the Czech Republic. So unless he's on the naughty step, just throwing that out there. 6, 7, lots of running, staying his feet. Yeah, he didn't do as much diving in as he usually does. He dives in quite a bit. Paqueta dives in a little bit, but he was quite lucky when he dived in. He actually got the ball. 7, 7, 7. Best game so far. 7. Cougar. Okay. 7, 7. Gives me a dodgy art. 7. Russ. That may be his best game for us. No, I agree. 7. Will not be happy with a decent performance of him yet. 7. Puts himself back in the spotlight. Totally right. Russie B also gave him a 7. But a lot of people were saying how he should never play in that position again. It's interesting, different opinions. People see different opinions of the game. If you talk about the captain, now I've criticised him as well in terms of being a captain. Being a club captain and what that takes. Yesterday was a club captain's performance on the pitch for me from Declan Rice. Firstly, we did a huddle. All about the huddle. I love a huddle where it gives me memories of the Great Escape era. If you remember that one, 2005-6 season. And when I used to play, and used to huddle together. I love a huddle, so it was really good to see. And he was more calm for me. He showed more. It was more collected, and then the passion came out when it needed to come out. Do you know what I mean? He didn't boil over. He kept, and when I used to drama, they used to say, "There's the character, and there's you just peeping over," and that was Declan Rice yesterday. There's him as a player, and there is him as a captain, just peeping over, and that was what we wanted, and that's what we need. Obviously, considering he'd played 2 bloody good England games as well, he was excellent. Moved the ball well. The amount of times he sort of got broke up the Southampton midfield and lots of cutout moves as well. A few important clearances as well. Weren't afraid to lump it about afterwards if he needed to, which was good. We got 8. Soufal got slated by the Czech in their last game. Fair enough. 7. 8, 7, seen more VOC. What's that mean? 9, 8, 8, 8, 8, 7. I smell 3 points in the bag. You did, Garino, indeed. 6, more vocal captain's performance. Yes, great way. 7, dominated midfield and showed he really cares, and he does care. We know, if you go and listen to our interview we did with Billy Horshaw, 1 a.m. on Saturday morning, he spoke about basically he talks to Deck all the time. He spoke to me like the day before and Nobes, and they are hurting about where they are at the moment, really hurting, and that to me, so we know they care, but to me that shows an extra level, if that makes sense, yesterday in terms of what he did. I gave him an 8 as well. Let's talk about his midfield partner. Let's talk about Lucas Paqueta. There's nobody better. Our Brazilian Magnifico back in the starting line like after the international break, where he only played 1 game actually. It was against Aguerd, Morocco, where they lost. He made something like, I think someone said he made the most amount of tackles in West Ham players done this season in a game. I think he had 7 in the first half, 5 more than any other player. I think after the break, he looked really good. Obviously, the technical, clever movement, clever passing. Almost scored at the end. The free, similar to the Newcastle goal, actually, wasn't it? When the ball came back to him at the back post, he took a touch and volley. It was the same thing. What I love about Paqueta is he never does anything simple. So there was one, I think it was in the second half, where he was camped right in the corner, and rather than just lump it out, he did this like drag back heel pass through. It's like, you know what? Fucking just lump it, mate. But it worked. There was once also when he was trying to do a back heel and he stepped on the ball and it stopped completely dead, but it actually worked out really well for him. It's quite funny because then, like, I think Moyes said in his post-match press conference, went, "Oh, those Brazilians, they tackle really hard, don't they? But that's why we bought him." No, you didn't. You bought him to be a number 10, but actually he's a number 8. And I mean, you saw when we brought Flynn Downs on, he went more as a 10. And I don't think he can influence the game as much. I don't think he enjoys that position. He likes getting involved. He likes putting a foot in. And actually, to be fair, a lot of tackles were actually landing. Usually they're a bit rash, but he was actually landing some really good tackles yesterday, I thought. What we got here? 7, 8, 8, 8, 8, 8, 8, 7, 7, 8. If he scored an amazing technique, battled in the midfield, would have been my man of the match, but again, got the goal. 8, 8. Stats are fantastic, but some people still put crap under decent manager. He will be unbelievable. 7, Aguerd, man of the match. 7, 8, return of the Mac. Russie B, so it was an 8 rather. I gave him an 8 as well. Right, let's move on, like Donkey Kong, and talk about Thomas Soucek, shall we? Poor Thomas. Poor old Thomas. I think the trouble with Thomas Soucek is he's not a number 10, firstly. He's not Fellaini. He's not that gifted. And even Fellaini wasn't that gifted. The trouble is when you play Danny Ings up front on his own, he doesn't have the physical presence that a West Ham side set up by David Moyes needs. We need someone like Antonio. We know someone like Arnautovic. And I mean, Arnautovic, I've said it before, was the perfect foil for the David Moyes setup. You know, because you could just get the ball up to him, really skillful, could hold it up, could drop a shoulder, could take a shot, would hurry defenders. I mean, we'll talk about Ings in a minute, but the choice with Ings is if you have Ings, you have to have Soucek in. As soon as Ings went off, who was the first substitution that Moyes made? Moyes went almost like 2 minutes afterwards was Downs for Soucek because you didn't need Soucek in there because you've got Antonio as the physical presence up there. We'll talk about Ings. As I said, Moyes made a really interesting point about him, which begs the question, why are you doing that to him? Obviously, you know, I mean, first half defended well. I mean, he's a sloppy passer. I mean, you know, the idea was him pushing more up front to contest in the air. He was taken off obviously midway through the second half of Flynn Downs, but yeah, he's just wasn't great. 5, 3, 11 passes out of 21 games, 3. Game was off, many missed passes. I mean, the thing is, and that's what I've said before. To be honest, I don't think he's any worse as when we signed him, but he ain't scoring the goals. When you score goals, people don't look at your general play. And I honestly think that's the case because Soucek was never going to, you know, and I said it before, you know, when he was going for this sort of goal, you know, not famine, what's the opposite of feast? That's it, a goal feast. You know, like, I bet there's like rumors of him going to Barcelona. There's no way because he's not technical enough. He's a blocker, and he's a guy who's gonna throw up and take all the hits and allow Danny Ings to hurry the midfield, the defenders a little bit. And he's a blocker, and he's not gonna put a 30-yard pass beautiful onto someone's toe. He's not going to do that. So my expectations of Soucek are quite low already because, you know, I don't think we get into the system anymore or anything like that. But I think he only plays because of Danny Ings, to be honest. 8, 3. 8. I love Tati Salah, but when pushing forward, gets balls always slows indeed. 5. He needs to watch yesterday's game again in a dark room. 3. Arnie is probably great right now. Totally agree. Actually, I didn't take Arnie now, to be honest, Peter. He's been smashing up in the Serie A for the last couple of years now. Only complete passes have not got a straight pass for ins. I agree. Soucek is nowhere near good enough. Totally agree. Why didn't you bring Cornet? We need some pace. We probably the reason I reckon we didn't bring him on, Ludders, was because we didn't need to bring him on because we were winning. Do you know what I mean? As I said, I think part of the game plan is get these games done as soon as possible. The bare minimum effort, knowing we've got the next game in 3 days, the next game in 3 days. So I think someone like Cornet, the game was crying out for him. If we were looking for a second, but I honestly don't think we were looking for a second. Honestly, I thought if we got it, it was fortuitous and it wasn't necessarily part of the game plan. That's the way I saw it. He does, but he puts him up front as a 10, doesn't he? I mean, he was out of the three of them, he was the most advanced midfielder most times. Put the ball out of play, didn't see him in the down. Is better than I totally agree. 4 plays only because of Moyes. Under Moyes, good players seem to regress. Well, I think under Moyes, certain players perform. He has his favourites, doesn't he? Same as every manager. And obviously Soucek's one of his generals, maybe, because he knows what he's going to bring in terms of running. I gave him a 6, and maybe that's a bit generous, based on what everyone else was saying. Let's talk about Jared. Obviously, back in the side. Tenacious. Didn't give up. High energy, as always. It was that sort of high energy, that running, which caused the free kick from which Aguerd scored from. I think Kehrer had a bit of a nightmare with him all game, to be fair. Created some good chances. He cut inside. He hit the bar, didn't he? Which would have been an amazing goal if he'd scored that in the first half. All round a good game. A good game. Didn't get he got the box. He got the ball quite a lot in outside the box, and I'd love him to get inside the box. And anyway. 7 looked lively. 6, 7 for Bullseye. Very good, Jim Bowen. 7 hacked up again. Yeah, he is. He's continually injured. 7, 6, never 4 tops. He offers nothing at all, says Mark. There we go. 6s and 7s. All at 6s and 7s for Bowen. I gave him a 7. I thought, and if that had gone in, it would have been an 8. I think that was a great goal, potentially, where he hit the post. The keeper was completely beaten by that. Let's talk about Benrahma. I thought it was I thought he was sluggish. Considering he hasn't played in the international break, I thought he looked sluggish. Part of that may be down to fasting as well. In all honesty, that's if I haven't had dinner for a day, I'd be I'd be a bit sluggish and a bit meh. But I thought he went missing. We were desperate for him to just take the ball and run past Walker Peters. But I think Walker Peters was sort of matched up to him a little bit, to be honest. Quite often he'd start and he'd check his run and then cut back inside, and that was really frustrating people. Second half a bit more better, more attacking and dangerous. He had a good shot, which forced the keeper into a save. It was okay, wasn't it? It's an okay game. 5 went missing. 6, 5, 6, 6, 4, 6. Benny was holding up for the ball. Boom, boom. 6. I gave him a 6 as well. I gave Benny a 6 as well. And so did Garino as well. Let's talk about Danny Ings. Let's talk about Danny Ings. Obviously against his old club, but it was against his old club for the Villa game. That didn't do any good. And he got booed, didn't he? He got booed when they announced his name, which I thought was quite funny. Held up the ball quite well, I thought. He pressed, a couple of fouls out of the Southampton players. He knew what he was doing. But he didn't really trouble them, I don't think. He didn't come close to scoring either, I think. And as I said, quite an interesting quote that Moyes said in his post-match press conference about Danny Ings, and he was asked about Danny looking isolated up front, and he said, "Yes, but we're only just getting to know him. He's someone who will probably might need more people around him. We're not playing at our best, and the Nottingham Forest game showed Danny is a penalty box striker. If we can get the ball more to Danny and give him opportunities, he can score. His record and his history will show that, and we've not really been that far up the pitch often enough to sustain pressure, which could maybe mean more opportunities for him are coming. Overall, we're really pleased with Danny, and we're hoping he can nick us a few goals between now and the end of the season." So even by Moyes' admittance, Danny Ings is not a player you put up front and let him run and just leave him up front. So why leave him up front and why not start with Antonio? This is what I don't understand, right? I'm not Antonio's biggest fan, as you know. But for me, something like a situation you get there against big Southampton centre backs, someone like Antonio would have bruised and battered them for 60 minutes, 70 minutes, 80 minutes, and then bring on Danny Ings when they're all ready to roll, and then pop balls over the top, maybe with a corner. For me, it's like if he knows by his own admission that Danny Ings is not a lone striker, don't put him as a lone striker. Don't buy him if you're not going to play him as a two. No, I just don't understand it. I really don't understand it. 2 invisible, 6 Benny's worst game for a while. 4 completely isolated, but not his own fault. No support for Ings, let alone striker. Needs to be in a 2. Totally, lots of running, being thrown to the bus, being put up front of his own. 6, but at least he runs and makes breaks. Yet 6. Wrong peg, wrong hole. Indeed, waste of time. 4. Why not play another striker or 4 hours and then give him support? Guerrero, exactly. Why not? And as I said, why not throw Cornet up there? Just play Bowen, Cornet, and Bowen, and then Ings up front, and Cornet go up with him. Or go with Antonio and Ings. Do you know what I mean? I don't know. Say it to him, blue in the face with the Indian manager. Usual, nothing's going to happen unless it's going to be. Actually, I don't think anything's going to happen until after the summer. Until the summer, potentially. I can't see anything happening until the summer. Even though Leicester got rid of their manager, which I think's a very strange thing. They could have got rid of him at the international break. So why play one game then get rid of him? Same with Chelsea. Very strange. Chelsea still got a lot to play for, potentially. And so do obviously Leicester. They're obviously hoping for the bounce for Leicester. Very strange. I think that whole thing was really, really weird. Really weird. So, anyway. 6, Antonio wouldn't start. Starting Carr would have made it to the full time. Yeah, totally agree. Ings was brought to be a striker with Villa side because they needed someone with him. And like you said, why buy him? Well, why buy him if you're not going to use him? Basically, for me, why buy him if you're not going to use him? Yeah, it's very, very strange. Need to play 2 up front wins. That's the thing. In all honesty, I don't think we're going to be. I don't think we're going to change anything dramatically for the next few games. Because we haven't got time to change anything. To me, it's the same game plan, and I think it will be the same game plan. Went off, then we're too. Yeah, indeed. Oh, it's always the way. Same we said about Skamaka. Totally agree. 6. I gave Ings a 6 as well. And then let's just quickly go to the others. So Antonio came on. I'll just rattle through these 2. Good energy. Didn't threaten. Again, he can't control his feet sometimes. I would have preferred to, and this is very rare, I'd have probably preferred to see Antonio start rather than Ings if we're going to play Ings up front, one man up front on his own. Yeah. Drifts out on the right too much for me. That's what really winds me up about him. So I gave him a 6. Downs came on with about 20 minutes. As I said, as soon as Antonio comes on, the first thing Moyes does is take off takes off Soucek for Downs. He doesn't need that aerial threat. He doesn't need that extra bit of physicality up front because he's got Antonio doing it. So Downs comes in. I think straight away. I think the midfield look a lot more settled. They look a little bit more like ball play midfielders rather than blockers. Downs probably made more passes completion than Soucek's made after the last couple of games. I think for me, it should be Downs, Paqueta, and Rice as the three, if they're playing a three. I think he's the future. He's the future. I think he's got such a calm nature about him as well, and he's a West Ham boy as well. So I gave him I give him a 6 as well. He gave him a 6 as well, and that was it. That was it, peeps. Not enough game time to Martin. No, exactly. I didn't necessarily give Fornals anything or Cresswell because actually Cresswell made the sort of the match-winning tackle at the end, didn't he? Interception when the ball was going through. But Antonio at 9 won the hardest fought corner ever after battling 4 defenders. 6, 7. Antonio, same old story. No way to play against. Can't finish. Has a time to settle. Must replace Soucek. I think you will. I think with so many games coming, a few of the players who are on the peripherals are going to be getting more game time, isn't it? So the likes of Flynn, hopefully Pablo will get some more game time, that type of thing. But yeah, look, a win is a win. As I said, it goes up to 14th. And I know what you're asking, Russ. I know what you're asking me. Where does that fit with the supercomputer prediction? I know that's what you're thinking because I know you're always all asking about the supercomputer. Let me bring up the supercomputer now. This was after. This was generated. When was it generated? Yesterday. It's been generated. Yeah, it's been regenerated. Yes, it's been regenerated because you all asked me about supercomputer. And so where does that sit in the supercomputer now? Where are we? What is our percentages of going down? Let me bring that up on the full screen. There we go. Supercomputer predicts. No, let's go that way. West Ham gives us a 12% chance of going down now. Frustratingly, less than 1% chance of getting to the Champions League, unfortunately. So he put us down to finish 40 points, and that is 20th, 19th, 18th, 17th, 16th, 15th, one place above where we currently are, apparently. And a 12% chance of going down. At the moment, Everton, Forest, and Southampton are the 3 they reckon are going down. Leicester, despite being in the bottom 3, they put down a 21% chance. I wonder if that's increased. So that's where they're playing us at the moment. So it's got better. It was 18% last week. So 12%, I'll take that. Another 21st hit. No way, Jose. Question for everyone. I'm in the way end. Any do's or don'ts? Cheer the West Ham goals and don't cheer the Fulham goals. Would like to see Lanzini play. Not going to play, lads. Can't see him playing apart from the European games. It's more suited to him. Can't see Spurs. No, we know Everton will win. No, Everton are winning that tonight. No problem at all. Potter or Rodgers. Well, the fact is, right, they've both been sacked for not doing well. Do you know what I mean? I'd like to see Potter. I'd like to see Potter, but then again, it's like people go, because I don't think the job he did at Brighton. I think the job he did at Brighton was because he had a well-run team behind him and a well-set-up team. And obviously, you see how De Zerbi now is doing well. So they've changed the manager, and they've got a bit better. So it shows that actually De Zerbi maybe is more of a progressive manager than Potter was. He did a good job at Swansea, but then so did other managers going at Swansea did good jobs. Chelsea's come in and a totally new project, and I think they're having it. To be honest, I don't think they gave him enough time because actually they're going to win fuck all this year, right? And they brought some really good players in, and I was quite impressed when they played us at London Stadium a few weeks ago. I was really impressed. I thought, if they keep that nucleus of that team, they could easily be challenging for the top 4, maybe challenging for the Championship next year, the Premier League, because I thought they were a really strong side. I don't think it's difficult. It's when you've got a team like Brighton, when you're buying in players to fit a system, he's got a system in mind. Chelsea, he had to retrofit players into that system and then buy players to fit in that system. So he sort of comes to it from both ends, so to speak. I mean, personally, I mean, out of the two, we'd be Potter, but to be honest, I'd probably not want either. I think there's other managers out there who I think would be more suited to us. What we got here? Weeks ago, I told you to put a bet on. Yeah, no, I said Enrique Enrique or Simeone. I still think Simeone. I don't think they were pointing to the end of the season, and I think they'll get Diego Simeone in, and that was part. And I reckon that's part of the Joao Felix deal. Got to go. Take care, mate. Thank you very much. Got to say, reference quality. Yep, he was. He let the game play quite a lot. Rogers would get a tune. Glad Roger get a tune at T&D. Mason, we've put 1 point above. Don't care, Michael. There's so many teams. There's so many teams beneath us. It's going to be that tight anyway all season. Wasn't backed. Potter was. Not sure why he's being mentioned. Look where on. That's what I mean. That's what I mean. And I agree, Trini. Totally with what you've made there. I really agree that. I think Potter is a little bit more overrated. I know people love him and stuff like that, and because he plays a different way of playing. But De Zerbi now is getting a real tune out of Brighton. He didn't do at Swansea. He did okay at Swansea, but he didn't get promoted. And I don't know why people think it might be different if we did get Potter in. I still think someone like I mean, personally, I would still take. I mean, look, for me, I think someone like Carrick. I just think he ticks so many boxes. Even I know people he's not experienced. He has. He's played he's been Man United manager for a few, and he knows the Premier League inside out. And it's not, and in the same way that I know some players like Gerrard, Lampard, they haven't had a great career coming out of football, but Arteta has, and Guardiola has, and I generally think Carrick could be a really good, and it may well be a stepping stone for the Man United job, because that might be where he wants to go eventually. But I just think he'd tick loads of boxes. I think he's young enough so people will respect him. The players will respect him. He's always a very calm, collected player, and I think he would do really good at West Ham. He's an honest manager. Too many egos. Yeah, he's not used to playing with Galacticos. So there we go. Or Galactico type, like Thiago Silva's this world, things like that. Mate, if you play the same, sorry, can't say. No, I totally agree. I don't think we will. I think our gameplay will go up, Alan. I really do. I think as I said, I generally think we played we do tend to match the team we play. And I think Southampton looked nervous. We looked nervous. I think Newcastle, we go into the game a little bit more pep in our step, and so will they as well. And so we know it'll be a tough game, but we gave them a game when we played them at St James's, didn't we? So there we go. 5 at the back, quite possibly. We'll play Soucek on Wednesday. Oh, we know it. Yeah, I'll go for Carrick. If win the rest of their games and it's still math possible to get third champ, less than 1% chance, BGADS, says the supercomputer. Carrick for me, I'm still recovering after sinking a few. Well done, Steve. Good on your son. If we win Europe and top 15, it's our best season in years. Bring a young progressive manager. I totally agree. Carrick could also nick some players from Borough. We'll give the youth a go. 2 tend to have kept their manager, indeed. Yeah, well, I mean, Forest gave him a new contract, didn't he? Will still, this is how easy it is for people to manipulate people. Yes, and as I said, I spoke to Will to try and get an interview with him, and his club aren't refusing him to do any West Ham interviews because they're really pissed off with the continual speculation of him going to West Ham. 2-2, yeah, I reckon that'd be a good game. Don't think Soucek will start. Rice and Paqueta with 2-man. No, I think it'll be the same side. But Anton will do the starting 11 show on Wednesday, so you keep an eye on that. Any manager, please play as you want to win and willing to try all I ask. I'd definitely take Potter. I don't think I would. But at the end of the day, Rich, it's a risk whoever you take, isn't it? It's a risk whoever you take, and it's a risk not to take anyone as well. So either way, you're on a hide into nothing, and the only way you know if your risk has paid off is at the end of the season. If you're still up, then you've done well. So You look at the Crystal Palace game, yes, on Saturday. Would Vieira have got that last minute winner? Quite possibly. But now Woyd's going to be attributed to that. 13 sackings. Wow, mental. Corner needs to start. Yeah, possibly. Thomas Frank, great shout. But again, Brentford are one of those teams, they've got their next manager. They know they're going to get for the next manager if Thomas Frank goes. They're probably, Brentford I reckon Brentford are literally, you can take Thomas Frank because they know how much money they're going to get. And then we'll get someone like, and they'll have the next one lined up. That's how a club needs to behave. That's how a sporting director needs to work, and the sporting team is that succession plan. And it looks like they're trying to do it with Declan Rice at the moment. With Hammer's headlines, we'll talk about that at 5:00 tonight. But the manager's succession plan, you want the next 2 or 3 managers or a shortlist ready of managers who would fit into the ethos you want to show and that type of thing. What we got here? I'm with you, Russ. I won't get Potter. I won't even get Rodgers. I won't get Rodgers, really. I think it's time for new blood. I really do. What about Nathan Jones? Indeed. I mean, that worked, didn't it? Southampton went to get a young progressive manager from the Championship. I heard people saying, "Oh, that's a great deal." West Ham fans saying, "Oh, that's a great thing for it's a real good appointment. He's progressive." Absolutely car crash, wasn't it? There's an interview from Will Steele, Match Today. Didn't realise he was born in Belgium. He is indeed. He's born in Belgium to English parents, and his brother's doing really well as well in the Belgium league. Thomas Frank just extended his contract. Exactly, to keep under contract so they can get some money out of him. Question is, what managers would like to join the circus? Indeed, Roy Keane, whatever. They should get that Ted Lasso. He's a good lad. Or Roy Kent. Roy Kent, he looks like he's no nonsense. Anyway, guys, I'll see you at Hammer's Headline tonight. Also tonight, later on, tonight we'll have Alf's Grumble as well. And then tomorrow we'll have all the bits and bobs. We'll probably put out the Diamante interview again tomorrow for those of you who didn't see it, rather than to scrub through the 24-hour live stream. So I'll put it out as a separate video. And we'll hopefully have Kendall on the channel tomorrow night talking about the Newcastle game. Take care. If you're new and here, if you're new and here, give a like, give a comment, give a share, give a subscribe. And until next time, take care, stay warm, stay hungry, stay humble, keep the faith. Come on, you Irons. And I'll see you later on. Take care, my friends. Bye-bye, and God bless.